the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Things, and now we have something new, so stay tuned.
You're listening to Mario's ThrowDown Fantasy Minute, giving you the winning strategy and tactical advice for your fantasy boxing team, making the points that earn you the points, preparing you for the big games that earn you big cash prizes, giving you the guarantees, sleepers, and buyer bewares. This segment is brought to you by ThrowDownFantasy.com, the only boxing-oriented fantasy game on the market dedicated to real fight fans with real know.
All right, guys. Well, as the intro explained, this is your Throwdown Fantasy Minute with me, Mario. For those of you that have played the game before, you know exactly how Throwdown Fantasy works. For those of you that don't, I'll explain it briefly. ThrowDownFantasy.com is the only place on the market to play a boxing-oriented fantasy game. This isn't a pick'em game. This isn't a win or lose type of game. This is an actual fantasy game. If you ever played fantasy football, fantasy basketball, fantasy baseball, then you have some degree of understanding, actually a pretty high degree. The best part about Fantasy Throwdown, guys, is that it is catered to us, the fight fans. You can't go anywhere else to play, but if you could, you wouldn't, because this is where you got to go, because this is real fight fan stuff. That being said, it's super easy to play, and anyone can play. You know, you can learn the sport as you go, and you know, I just wouldn't suggest jumping into the big money prizes. They have contests every week. You can sign up and play for free. Remember to use the Boxing Voice tag suggestion thing, and you know, helps us out. But a brief explanation how it works: $25,000 is what you get as a salary cap to start, and you select 5 fighters. Okay, 5 fighters that have to be within that allotted salary cap. This is again not based on picks. This is based on points and categories, points that come from categories. The categories are wins and how you got the win. So if a fighter gets a win, he gets a certain amount of points. If he gets it by decision, he gets a certain amount of points. If he gets it by KO, he gets a bonus. How early he gets the KO is dependent how much the bonus is. Punches landed count, connect percentage counts, and punches thrown count. So that's pretty much how it works. You go and you sign up, you know, and again, use the Boxing Voice link. So I'm going to just, from a week-to-week basis, go over the games. This game is the Crawford John contest. Right now they're offering, like I said, a free roll, throwdown points, a $2 game and a $10 game. Now usually there are higher games, you know, for more money, but you know, with the fight like this, they, you know, tend to keep the games a little limited as opposed to the big-time games. When Cottos are fighting, when Canelos are fighting, the games are huge. There's a lot of money to be won, and there are people winning huge amounts of money. So right now I'm going to focus on Joseph Diaz, who's a fighter in the Crawford John contest, who's being offered at $5,800. Okay, this is the most expensive fighter with Jermell Charlo as the tie, who's also coming in at $5,800. They're both the most expensive fighters to own right now. I think that you have to have one or the other for a contest like this. If you go into the contest, you're going to realize that the fights are a little bit shallow this week, and these are the two biggest chances for points. So who do you pick? $5,800. They're both in fights that they should win. Who do you select? I'm going to go ahead and offer up Diaz as my pick. I think that you should go with Diaz as well. Both are coming in at $5,800, but Tamayo, who has 6 losses, 4 by KO or TKO, has went the distance with Oscar Valdez, and he got stopped by Cuellar in his fight before that. Now that tells me he has the ability to take Diaz into some deeper waters, and that's the biggest point here, guys. It's not about picking the win, it's about picking which guy's going to show out. And Diaz could understandably rack up some points with a fighter who's not willing to go out, you know, on his shield, a guy who's going to take him and maybe try to make it a war at times. He's not going to just take out Tamayo with one punch. He's going to rack up the points with getting punches. His connect percentage is probably going to be pretty high, and we all know that Diaz throws a lot of punches. For Charlo, on the other hand, I don't like this fight with Joaquim. I don't like it because Joaquim hasn't fought since 2014. His last fight was against Delvin Rodriguez, and he got a split decision draw through 10 rounds, again in May 2014, and he hasn't fought since. I think Jermell Charlo's coming in to... He's set up to win, obviously, But the big thing for me is that how aggressive is Charlo going to be early? If Charlo comes out and scores a first, second, or third round knockout, then great, you're going to get those bonus points. But if he takes it slow and eventually stops him somewhere in the mid rounds, which I really think that's the kind of fight he's going to fight, then you're only going to get the KO points. You're not going to get punches landed. You're not going to get punches thrown. And the KO percentage has to accumulate to a certain amount of punches thrown. So it doesn't count if he lands 10 of 10 punches. He didn't throw the number of punches needed to get the KO, to get the percent punch point bonus. So the next one I want to go over is Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison is coming in at 5,100. He's one of the more expensive guys. He's fighting Cecil McCullough. Tony Harrison is, in my opinion, a buy or sell guy. He will make or break your team this week. If you buy Tony Harrison, you're going to pay for it. He has the power to get you the points, and right now he's scoring 83.9 fantasy points per fight. He's throwing 89 punches. He's landing 89 punches and throwing 224 for 39%. Cecil McCullough is a tough fighter. He's a very, very tough fighter. It's not a fight that I'm going to pick him to win, but it's not a fight that I'm going to pick him to be a dog in, or a huge enough dog in that Tony Harrison's going to rack up the points. Cecil McCullough has never been stopped. He's only lost to Ishe Smith and Chris Van Heerden. I would stay away from Tony Harrison, even though the power suggests otherwise, and that 89 points is a very high number, or 83 points, I'm sorry. I just don't like it. The guy that I am going to suggest, however, is a guy that some of you might not have heard of, Sergey Lipinets. Sergey Lipinets is only 7-0 with 6 KOs. He's going to be fighting on Bounce TV against Lydell Rhodes. Some of you might be familiar with Lydell Rhodes. You've seen his name on PBC cards, on Golden Boy cards, and Lydell Rhodes isn't a huge dog in this fight, surprisingly so. And if you go to ThrowDownFantasy.com, you're going to see that he's averaging 104 points. But I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Lydell Rhodes has never been tested, and Lipinets has real power. This is a steal. Lipinets is only worth $5,000, and when it comes to this contest, it's going to be nitty-gritty with the points. Every little bit that you can save is going to count, and especially because I'm suggesting Joseph Diaz. I don't usually like picking the highest fighters, the highest price fighters in a contest, because to me it doesn't make any sense. There's better bargains out there usually, but in this sense, I am going to, especially the fact that Kell Brook fight got canceled, and that was one of the fights being offered. That was a huge blow to this contest, especially when you're trying to put a good fight on. The last one that I'm going to go over is the Crawford Derry-Jean. Now, this is the name of the contest, obviously, and I haven't said much about it because it's not a fight that interests me much in terms of fantasy relevance. Crawford's going for $5,600. He's scoring 67.4 fantasy points per fight. He's landing 148 punches out of 478 punches thrown for 31%. Derry-Jean's going for $4,300, and he's earning 77 fantasy points out of 124 punches landed for 379 thrown. Listen, this is the kind of fight, and I don't like picking both fighters because you're going to lose with one. This is a fight where you can pick both fighters. If you pick Crawford and you get down to the nitty-gritty and you have to pick John, it's not a bad pick. It really isn't. Derry-Jean has come on in the last couple fights of his career. I think he's going to be a little more active. I think Crawford's going to be a little more calculated. I think he's going to be better off picking both fighters, even though one of them's definitely going to lose, as opposed to picking Tamayo, who's your cheapest pick, as opposed to picking Malik Scott, who's one of your cheapest picks, as opposed to picking Joaquim, who's the cheapest pick. I think he's going to end up getting more points, and I think that you're going to probably find room for him if you go with the Crawford and skip those other guys. So, that's been your Throwdown Fantasy Minute. Ness,